Hey everybody, it's Eric from epautos.com, and boy is it cold out here in the woods today. Temperature slammed down to high teens from where it had been 60 just a few days ago. So I'm out here freezing my butt off. I'm going to do a quick little video walk around here of this 2016 Lincoln MKC, which is Lincoln's entry-level luxury crossover SUV. As many of you probably know, it shares a platform with the Ford Escape, so some may accuse Lincoln of doing the GM 70s thing and badge engineering this model, but they really did a good job of differentiating it from the Escape, both cosmetically and functionally. It isn't just a quickie job to get you to pay more money for the Lincoln badge. Lincoln is really working hard to rebuild its brand, just like Cadillac had to do back in the 90s and the early 2000s. Of course, Cadillac has been pretty successful at it. Lincoln, not yet. They're working on it. This is a good first effort, and it's a vehicle that you might want to take a look at if you're considering a small luxury branded crossover SUV. In particular, if you're interested in something that's a little bit more posh and luxurious in the old school sense rather than the modern sense where everything's kind of sporty. Of course, this kind of looks sporty. It comes standard with the 18-inch wheels, and you can get 20-inch wheels, and it has two turbocharged engines, but it's really kind of a softie. It has a soft cush suspension, soft light steering, a very soft and quiet interior, and part of the reason for that is an immense amount of sound deadening and quiet tuning. Even though this does share a platform with the Escape, it's about 400 pounds heavier than the Escape. And the upside is that it's very quiet, and very cush, and very posh. The downside is it's a bit slower, actually, than the Escape, and that's one of the few deficits that this vehicle has. It comes standard with the same 2.0-liter Turbo 4 that is optional in the Escape. It makes 240 horsepower, same as in the Escape. Again, the problem is that this car weighs about 400 pounds more than the Escape, so it takes about a second longer to get to 60. It takes about 8 seconds to do that. Now, that's not slow, but in my opinion, the problem is one of perception, in that people who are looking at this car might be a little bit off-put that the Escape, which is about $10,000 less, is actually quicker than this thing is. Now, you can upgrade to Ford's 2.3-liter EcoBoost 4, and that thing makes 285 horsepower, and that knocks about a second off the 0 to 60 time and gets you down to about 7, so about what the 2.0 Escape does. The problem there is that you can get into something like the Acura RDX, which comes standard with a V6 and weighs less and gets to 60 in 6.5 or so seconds. And that's the standard engine. Another competitor is the Lexus NX200T, which is, again, about as quick with its standard engine as this thing is with its optional engine. So that's a small deficit. Let's have a look on the inside, and I'll show you one of the highlights of the car. I should have done this at night, because the effect is much better at night. God, it's cold out here. All right, hopefully you'll be able to see this. All right, first of all, notice that you've got a push-button console here rather than a shifter for the gear selector. And that makes sense because all of this is now drive-by-wire anyway, so you might as well eliminate the physical shifter. There's no cable connecting your car with the throttle any longer. Turn this all down. So this is not only it's appropriate to the era in which we live, it also frees up a bunch of space. You've got your drink holders here conveniently situated, and you don't have to worry about spilling your coffee all over the gear shifter. Now, what I'd like to show you, if I can, one of the real cool features of this car is the LED mood lighting. You probably can't see it too well right now, but Ford has built in this LED mood lighting. It's pretty much everywhere. You can see it here, coming underneath this nice floating console. Look at the nice stitching too, by the way. And there's another little glow of it right there, and another little glow of it right there. And combine that with the big panorama glass up here, and at night, it's just really neat. It's like you were floating along in the first-class lounge of a 747 in one of those little kind of cocoons that they have up in those lounges. It's a really, really nice experience. And you'll note, if you're familiar with the Ford Escape, that the dashboard is different from what you'd get in an Escape. The speedometer and tach have LCD needles with the analog gauges backlit behind that, and you've got this nice floating console here that kind of projects forward like that. You've got your USB twin power points there, and again, you've got this backlighting that kind of comes on right here, which is nice because you can see this and you can access this while you're driving the car. Ford's also got, Lincoln has the latest generation here of their Sync Touch interface. It's better than it was before. You can pinch to zoom, and it has some other smartphone style functionality to it now, but it's still one of my least favorite systems, and I'll tell you why. Not only am I not a huge fan of the complete touchscreen layout, the real problem with these touchscreens, in my opinion, is when you've got these tiny, tiny little icons here. Like, for example, that's information, that's home, and that's vehicle settings. And if you can imagine, you're driving on the road, it's just kind of awkward to get to it. While I'm sitting here and doing this, it's not a big deal. But when you're driving down the road, this is not optimum. And you have to go through these various little sub-menus here, for example, to access different things. So the buttons are a little bit small, and they could still do some work to improve that. But otherwise, I've got very, very, very few complaints and a lot of good things to say about this vehicle in terms of the way it looks, in particular the interior. In terms of room, you've got more front seat legroom in this thing than you'd find in many current full-size luxury sedans. And again, this is a compact, so that's very impressive. Let me turn this off. The back seat room is also very good. The Acura RDX has a little bit more room, but you got about 36.8 inches back here, and that's about the same as in the Lexus NX200T. You've also got a really good-sized cargo area back here, more than in the NX200. The Acura RDX, again, has more, but you can drop that second row, and that opens up about 60 cubic feet total. And these crossovers, whether it's a luxury crossover or just a regular crossover like the Escape, are popular in part because of this. You can really do stuff with these back cargo areas. You can put your dog back here, you can put a bunch of stuff back here. Just to give you some context and some perspective, a current compact sedan, something like a Corolla, let's say, which is about the same physical length and would take up about the same size on the street in the parking spot or in your garage as this thing, has about a 13 cubic foot trunk, so much smaller, much less useful, and that explains one of the reasons why these crossovers are so popular. To summarize, probably the chief deficit of this thing is not the cargo space or the power or the performance. Probably the chief problem with this thing is the price. Now, it starts out less expensive than either the RDX or the Lexus NX200, but if you want all-wheel drive, Ford forces you to move up the trim into a Select, which starts around $39,000, and if you add all-wheel drive, you're over $40,000. And that is several $1,000s more than you'd pay for an all-wheel drive equipped RDX or an NX200T. And this top-of-the-line black label, which is, again, very nice. I think it's an extremely appealing vehicle. It's also an incredibly expensive vehicle. This thing's over $50,000, and it would be almost impossible to spend that much for either an RDX or an NX200T if you paid full sticker, didn't haggle, and cut the dealer a check for a few $1,000s just to say thank you very much. And that's a problem for Lincoln, because Lincoln, frankly, is not in a position right now to be demanding top dollar for its vehicles. They should be trying to undercut Acura, Lexus, and everybody else. And if they did that, I think this thing would be a gangbuster hit. Now, in 2017, which will be next year model year-wise, Ford is going to update the Escape significantly, and so probably this MKC will be updated as well, and it will probably have corrected some of the issues with this one. And if Lincoln is smart, they'll also price it more competitively. Anyway, I'm starting to freeze, so I'm going back inside. The full review will be up on the site shortly. Also some new rants about various topics, including this business of the internet expecting people like me to write for free. Why, that's my favorite price. So come on down, see what you think, and thank you for watching, and we'll catch up with you next time.